Okay, so we are joined now by my daily colleague, Hugh Dougherty, the Daily Beast executive editor, to discuss Elon's new clingy behaviour to to the other part of the presidency, Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Well, great to be with you. Great to be with you, Sam. There is so much to talk about with Elon. Where would you like to start?
I think we should start at Banyan Cottage, which is where he's been staying, $2,000 a night on the premises of Mar-a-Lago.
Right, he's checked in. He's been partying at Mar-a-Lago. The last time he was seen partying at Mar-a-Lago was on New Year's Eve, when he too was doing the YMCA with Trump, with Melania, and he brought X, his son, with him. He's been quieter since then in person, but he has been tweeting up a storm, and he is very much the co-president to critics. Now, Trump himself might be beginning to get a bit tired of this. There are some suggestions that he is not quite as keen on being around Elon as Elon is on being around him. And as you know, Sam, Joanna, it's only a few days until Trump is sworn in, and that seems like 4 years of drama to play out, but Elon is already getting a lot of questions around him from the MAGA fans.
Is there a sense that after inauguration, that divide is going to make itself very known? Like, I feel like he's just biding his time till inauguration day, and then the separation will be more decisive.
That's the big question that hangs over Elon, that hangs over Trump. And there are lots of theories. And if we're honest, there's very few facts. We know that they are hanging out. We know that they like each other. You might remember that Trump accidentally tweeted one of his DMs saying, "Where are you?" to Elon.
That's right.
And
it appears to be very codependent behaviour.
Oh my God, I just picture him. He's like a bounce fabric softener sheet stuck on the back of that Brioni suit.
So funny. That's a great description of him. And also, obviously, he X'd over the holidays that King Charles should fire the British Prime Minister, which the British Prime Minister initially ignored. In fact, the Labour Party was apparently put on lockdown to take no notice whatsoever of any antagonisms coming from Elon Musk, but now they can't avoid it because he's being so disruptive there.
Right. And I saw that Keir Starmer said that he had crossed a line. And I just wonder, what does it mean that he crossed a line?
It means absolutely nothing. It means absolutely nothing. Because what can they do? They're trying to ban X. But in reality, actually, it's quite difficult to do that. The only thing I think they can do is not rise to the bait. But the problem is he keeps promising to fund their opposition. Then he withdraws the funding. He's really fucking with everybody.
Right.
Elon Musk has become the avatar of what's happening inside Trump's world and a bit of what's happening inside his brain. And in some ways, he's like the id of MAGA at the moment. And he's stretching out across the world. He's tweeted about Britain. He's tweeted about Germany. And he is, of course, supportive, apparently, of taking over Canada and Greenland. And all of that is an indication of how important he is to working out what's going on inside the Trump presidency. But Sam, to your point, on the 20th, when Trump is sworn in, it's a whole new ballgame.
Right. And
Trump has around him aides and professional advisors who might take a different view of that.
Right.
And we've already seen with Susie Wiles, who's going to be his White House chief of staff and who was his campaign manager, a promise that there'll be no big egos and that there's only one boss. And how that works when there seem to be two bosses is anybody's guess.
What is the MAGA world's take on Elon Musk right now? Because there have been disturbances in the force, for sure, especially regarding immigrant visas, because he's got such a, you know.
Well, we'll all remember when we were writing the history of MAGA that there was a civil war over Christmas and New Year.
Yeah.
And it seems to have died down for a few days.
Okay.
But that's not to say it can't come back again, because there's a real fracture here. He's living at Banyan Cottage, but the real opposition inside MAGA isn't Banyan, it's Bannon. And Steve Bannon, who is an amazingly talented polemicist, is somebody whose podcast the MAGA base listen to relentlessly.
Right.
And on that podcast, he has gone after Elon Musk day after day after day with the kind of colourful threats that he used before the January the 6th insurrection 4 years ago. So although it's quieting down in the last few days, there's a real difference here there were a lot of people inside at the heart of MAGA, like Steve Bannon, who believed that they were voting for a complete end to immigration, that sealing the border really did mean sealing the border. And that was the appeal that MAGA was making to the people who voted for them. There are other people like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy who together are going to run the DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, we are told, who believe that sealing the border from the south is one thing, but sealing the border to talented immigrants, particularly from South Asia, that the tech world has been bringing in to run big companies, including, of course, elements of X, elements of SpaceX and elements of Tesla, that border is still open and should be, and that America should be attracting the brightest and the best. And that's a real fracture that we really don't know where Trump's going to come down on this.
I think it's such a weird thing to put Elon in charge of essentially government efficiency. Here is an extraordinarily interesting thinker who's created or run and developed extraordinary game-changing companies. Why on earth don't they give him his own department of like thinking different, use the Apple phrase, and have him work on entrepreneurialism and have him work on big thinking, bringing new ideas to really tough problems. Instead of putting him in the Doge thing, which I know started as a joke because of the crypto coin, but actually harnessing his genius. Instead, you've got him behaving like a child on Twitter, which is totally depressing. He could be harnessed, if he was managed properly, to bring extraordinary great things to America. I mean, the idea of reinventing America with some of the best minds in Silicon Valley is, I think, super exciting.
It's so hard for me to hear you talk about him like he's a genius with great ideas anymore. I think he's a man. I think he's like gone off half-cocked. He's had good ideas in the past, but now he's a rich madman and lunatic.
But he's been a rich guy for a long time. I don't think that's it. I mean, Seth Abramson, one of his biographers, says he thinks he's having a mental breakdown brought on by too much microdosing. We know he does microdose. I've certainly talked to people who've microdosed with him. But I do think that he brings an extraordinary range of intelligence that we would be lucky to have applied to the problems in America, just unfortunately probably not with Donald Trump. And he's as famous as Donald Trump, which is hard to be, frankly. So you've got two extraordinary clashing egos.
I just don't think he has good ideas anymore. I really just don't. I think the good idea reservoir is dry, now we are in bad idea
I think
land.
People like that always have good ideas. I mean, look at what he's done. Starlink, The Boring Company, Tesla, SpaceX. I think you can't stop people like that having great ideas. But I'm really concerned that his energy is just going in completely the wrong place, and it's unhelpful. The disruption he's doing is unhelpful. He doesn't even understand it, saying the king could get Keir Starmer to resign. It's not how it works.
I just think he tweets 62 times a day with 62 of the worst ideas you've ever heard, and his anti-immigrant stand. Like, I just don't think there's any coming back from that until a long period of being out of the public eye, and that's just not happening.
He's not anti-immigrant. He's anti-illegal immigrant, right? He's pro bringing in the best people all over the world, many of whom want to come to America. They come in on an H-1B visa, and then eventually, they get it. They segue to a green card and then to citizenship. That's traditionally been the path of bringing in highly qualified people that have largely helped run Silicon Valley. I mean, Silicon Valley doesn't work without immigrants coming in, largely from South Asia, most of whom are better educated than Americans. And that's the crux of the deal. And that's the tension within MAGA, right?
Which is why I really don't understand the positions that he takes in the UK. Like, I don't really understand his defense of Tommy Robinson. I don't know where his head is at. And that is why, that's why I think he's just gone down
I wonder if someone else is actually tweeting all that British stuff, because it's incoherent with what he thinks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incoherent with his stance on other things. Tommy Robinson being a guy who's in jail for violence, basically political violence.
Right.
And this is the big question that hangs over what's going to happen in the next 4 years. Because you're both friends who are divided on what Elon is. Everybody inside MAGA is probably divided on it as well. And they're waiting to see what happens. And one of the big questions that Elon has raised is about immigration. But in the next few weeks, we're going to see a whole debate inside the Republicans
Right.
about what happens next. Who's going to be confirmed? Who's going to get the approval of the Senate? And what laws are going to get passed quickly? And one of the big laws that is sitting there is about immigration and the border. So this civil war is going to come back and explode. And Elon is absolutely going to be at the centre of it.
Well,
and
Hugh-
he's going to be texting and tweeting more than 60 times a day, Sam. Sorry.
Oh, God.
Well, Hugh, we want you to come back regularly and give us updates on this extraordinary relationship, Donald Trump and Elon Musk, the conjoined president of the United
We're in
States.
4 years of amazing drama, and where else would you want to be but on the Daily Beast podcast to talk about it?
Well,
Thank you
and,
for having me.
and listen, shout out to Josh Fiallo, to
Yes.
Jana Brancalini, and to our new political correspondent, Julie Grace Brufke, who've done some incredible reporting.
Yes.
Some great scoops, and we're going to see so many more of them because we know. And we just, if you're listening, Elon, slide into our DMs. Tell us what's happening. We want to hear from you direct.
Well, come on the podcast. Sam
Come
won't
on,
talk
even
to you, but
better,
I
come on the
will. I
podcast.
will.
You're welcome to my seat.
Don't bring every time I've ever seen him in person, he had a 2-year-old, he had like one of his many children there in toddler form
Well, I
sitting
think he
on his
doesn't
lap.
like to be on his own.
Yeah, that's probably a wise decision. He's much more appealing with a toddler on his lap.
There's plenty of room. You can park him outside in the green room.